How did we get here?
Loading screens are an integral part of any video game, no duh. Without them, well, good luck playing your game normally. While some consider these things to take up mere seconds boring, I think a loading screen has potential to aid the experience of a game by designing a screen that is unique and incorporates elements from the actual game to support the design. And of course, since its conception in the 90s, Sonic has had his fair share of loading screens. Although newer technology has allowed games to almost seamlessly integrate loading screens into actual gameplay, Sonic's loading screens have mostly remained the same. However, what hasn't stayed the same are the designs of each game's respective screen. Some are basic, but are able to get their point across, while others are bold and colorful, and some are just lazy. And of course, in this video I'll be going through each mainline game from Sonic 1 all the way to Shadow Generations and giving my personal thoughts on each of the main loading screens. Anyways, you guys know what comes next. Let's get to the herring, surprise, and potato!
What's the surprise?
Starting off more simple is the loading screen from the very first game, and for a first attempt at the loading screen, I think they did a pretty decent job. Obviously, you've got the bright blue oval placed slightly to the right that I can only assume is supposed to represent Sonic himself. The font used for the zone name is kind of random, with a more fancy look to it that doesn't exactly complement Sonic's fast nature. However, I think that the font used for the act goes much smoother with everything. The colors though? I'm not really sure why they chose orange and yellow, maybe to stand out more? It doesn't matter. Together, these elements combine into a very simple but colorful and recognizable screen that lasts only a couple seconds before the stage slowly fades in. I think we're off to a good start. Anyways, to pause this video for a quick second, if you've been enjoying this video, it'd mean a lot if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel to help me out. Anyways, let's go back to the loading screens. Sonic 2's loading screen keeps the stylization from Sonic 1, but completely throws simplicity out the window. I mean, this thing is out there. It wants very clearly to be seen, and it does a great job at accomplishing just that. The far left side boasts a bright red spanning almost halfway across the screen. The shape is a rectangle, but it's slanted ever so slightly to the left, with a cutout of triangles spanning along the right side. I also really like the subtle drop shadow it has. It gives it just enough depth to be noticeable. Towards the bottom, the screen is colored yellow, with the name of the character you're playing spelled out in a slim but wide font, which I think is an improvement over the text from the original. Above the yellow, there's a cool blue that takes up the rest of the space, which is inhabited by the text indicating the zone name. Again, this text is an improvement from Sonic 1, as it is fancy but also bold. This text also has a nice drop shadow. In all, I think that Sonic 2's loading screen is a much needed upgrade from Sonic 1, and the boldness of it all really spells out the sense of spectacle that can be found within the game. Hopefully other games in the future don't try to copy this design without matching the vibe of it entirely. Sonic CD is a bit different compared to the last two, as it doesn't have a dedicated loading screen. Instead, the screen is completely black until the stage fades in, with no design being present until it does. However, there is a cool design that gives some more information, so let's talk about it. CD's design acts more as a banner than it does an entire screen. The colors are identical to Sonic 2's, with a bright red and yellow and a cool blue taking up most of your view. Also, the red section has that triangle cutout pattern and subtle drop shadow just like Sonic 2, which keeps things consistent. The font in yellow is the most bold that it's ever been, not being straight up block letters instead of a neat font, but I actually think this kind of text works the best. The first letter of every word of the zone is bigger than the rest of the text, and is put on the blue part of the design. Jutting halfway across the screen horizontally is a black bar with the name of the game spelled in another bold font. There's also these three white bars, which I'm not quite sure what they do. If anyone knows, feel free to comment. But anyways, the last part of this design lies under this black bar, with text simply spelling out zone in a fancy italicized font, as well as the zone number being placed in yellow inside this little gear. Obviously, the gear represents the machine versus nature theme of the game, which is a nice touch. Overall, this design might just be my favorite yet. It might not technically count as a loading screen, but I'm not gonna count a black screen as that. It's boring. This design stays sleek, but still manages to be bold, and even has elements in the game snuck into it. Great loading screen from CD, I know, common Sonic CDW. Let's move on to the final mainline classic game. Sonic 3 goes back to the simple nature of the first game, and is very minimalistic with its design choices. The most amount of color is found in this red banner that hangs along the left-hand side. At the bottom of it, the game's name is spelled out in a font very similar to the brand's main one, with a nice gradient that makes it stand out even more. To the right, you'll see the zone name sewn in a tall, skinny font that looks like it hasn't eaten in a few weeks. There's this subtle but noticeable gray background around the bottom half of the text that highlights it in a nice way. To the bottom of the zone name, you'll find the axe number, with the actual number being a huge bold font with some more gradient for added color. Again, there's the nice background, but behind the number, you'll see that there's a small palm tree, which represents the center location addition to the game, Angel Island. Again, really nice theme incorporation. Now, this game was the first in the series to add different music for Act 1 and Act 2, but what it also did was ever so slightly change the loading screen for each act. If you don't see it yet, look closely at the number.
Do you see it?
It's so cool, am I right? In all seriousness, while not changing much for the acts, I think it's still a nice touch that they even did this at all. So, while being one of the more simple loading screens from the classic games, Sonic 3 does a great job in keeping what worked with the past designs while still adding new ones that are uniquely its own. Anyways, let's finally take a look at the first 3D Sonic game, and oh my god, this is mid. I mean, it has elements from the game in it, sort of. It's got the ball representing the spin dash, of course, but I'm not sure about that thick white outline. It looks kind of bad. Besides that though, this design is awfully generic, with the only other thing occupying the black screen is that blue tab with the stage name written in white on it. I mean, there's really not much more I can say about Adventure 1. It's kind of dull. But thankfully, its sequel has a lot more to talk about. While I personally think Sonic Adventure 2 is overrated, not so subtle plug, I can't say the same for its loading screen. This thing is amazing. It takes elements from Sonic 2 with the rectangle and triangle cutout pattern, sorry, there's really no other way to describe that, but adds its own twist, with the main two colors being black and blue. The top layer of text tells you the stage number, and below that in more bold text reads the stage you'll be playing. Next to the stage name is another oval to represent the spin dash, but it's much more stylized here compared to Adventure 1. It doesn't have an outline, which helps it blend in with the black background, and has a nice gradient to go with it. Towards the bottom is a blue box with the mission number in bold text, and the mission objective in... I don't even know how to describe this font, the font from the cutscene dialogue. Again, lovely drop shadow to go with it. At the very bottom, it tells you that the stage is loading, with a nice render of a ring spinning to the left of the text. This all combines into a loading screen that not only looks sleek and cool, but also one that gives you a ton of information that you may need in the seconds leading up to the stage fading in. Fantastic design, truly. They seriously need to take these design philosophies into a new mainline game for the future. Sonic Heroes is up next, and... what am I looking at? This thing isn't terrible by any means, but I feel as if it's trying to do too much with the little screen space it has. Again, we've got that rectangle triangle cutout pattern, that's just what I'm calling it from now on, I love it. Except this time there's 3 of them cluttering the screen. They ripped the colors straight from Sonic 2 with little change to them, but I think it's fine this time around, only because it represents the 3 main characters in Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. But like, they played with the amount of triangles there are, and like, it just looks ugly. Especially because there's no drop shadow, no gradient, nothing, just plain slabs of color slapped on top of each other. In the center is a stage number and stage name like usual, with the stage name text having a gradient that, I'll admit, looks pretty good. To the left of the text is the team logo, which actually does a cool spinning motion in game. You can't see it now because it's the still image, but just imagine it spinning. On the bottom in the blue portion lie the mission and mission objective like usual, except the objective text feels tacked on somehow. Again, no gradient, no drop shadow, just plain white text. I think Heroes definitely has potential. All it really needs are some little touches that could add depth to certain elements. Hopefully the next game, Shadow of 5, does exactly that. Oh, dude, genuinely, what were they doing here? Who thought they cooked here? That thin red line is not cool, dude. It just makes it look bad. The only good part about this design is the black arm symbol that looks really cool, and the subtle gradient across the whole screen. Anyways, Sonic 06! This is probably one of, if not the most iconic loading screen in the entire series, mostly because this screen will last longer than your actual gameplay in your playthrough. But to be honest, the actual design in this game isn't anything too special. This game started the trend of giving control tutorials in Sonic loading screens, which I don't think is a bad idea. However, what is a bad idea is making these tutorials the centerpiece of the design. It also shows off renders of the moves in action before and after performing them, just in case you didn't know what they were supposed to look like. But ignoring the tutorials, the rest of the design depends on the stage you're playing, with the background corresponding to the level. But for some reason, these black bars crop the stage picture, maybe to make it more cinematic or something. They probably did this to fit the text in, with the stage name in bold letters at the top and the stage objective in a small font at the bottom. And of course, there's the iconic "Now Loading" text in the bottom right that stands out with its multicolored gradient that matches the 3 main characters, Sonic, Silver, and Shadow. I don't know. This screen seems simple but also complex, probably due to the things like the black bars and tutorial screens having a feather effect, with the tutorials being slightly transparent. I can't decide if I like this one or not. How about you? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Anyways, let's go through these next couple ones quick. The Storybook games don't have a true loading screen design, so instead I'll talk about the stage select screens. Both of these games have a similar layout, with an image of the stage faded in the background, the stage name itself towards the middle, and a description or objective of the level in a bolded box towards the bottom. In Secret Rings, this box is decorated with golden crescents, and the stage name is glowing gold to represent the Flame of Judgment. In Black Knight, the box is instead a scroll, and the stage name is surrounded by a white circle of sorts. Pretty cool designs that play into the theme of both games. Alright, as much as I love Unleashed, I'm really not so sure about this loading screen. It's meant to represent Tails' ThinkPad or whatever that thing is, sure, and for that it does a good job. There's a small faded image of the stage you're about to play on the left of the screen, along with an actual image of your controller with a diagram of what each button does as you unlock more moves. To the right, there's a black box with another tutorial, this time showing what certain inputs look like in 06. And of course, there's the now loading text in bright green at the bottom right of the screen. While this design sticks with its theme very well, I don't understand why they choose Tails' tablet to represent the entirety of Unleashed. Sonic Colors takes Sonic Heroes and puts a modern spin on its concepts and actually does it right this time around. The rectangles with triangle cutouts have colors that go well with each other and have not only a drop shadow, but also a bright blue outline that makes everything pop. In the center of the screen is a planet that belongs to the stage you're about to play, with a very nice field of stars to make the background stand out. The text and their fonts are all well thought out and do a good job in portraying amounts of information. There's no tutorial this time, and instead a best rank, best time, and best score displayed on the bottom. I'll be honest, this is one of my favorite loading screens, right next to CD. Sonic Generations is almost perfect. It's got a lot going on in terms of objects, but it makes it work by adding depth to it all. There's tons of cool shapes everywhere that's a nice callback to the 90s Japanese box art. In the middle is the stage name, which is the same font from Adventure 2, but heavily outlined in black. At the bottom, you'll see your best score, best time, and best rank. I think the only thing holding this design back is the tutorial, which makes everything go from controlled chaos to cluttered. Sonic Lost Worlds is fine. It does what it wants to do very nicely, especially with the wacky text, but it's not very original. Now, I can say that for a lot of these screens, but Lost World doesn't even try to innovate. It just took what worked and slapped some new colors on it, which is ironic considering that this game as a whole was trying to do something new for the franchise. It's okay, but it could have been just a little better. Now, on the other hand, Sonic Mania's designs are incredible. This loading screen has an incredible animation with bunches of colors and text unfolding across the screen. The game's logo is displayed in the top right with a pixelated effect, with a stage name and act number proudly being presented in the middle. Also in the middle are these collections of rectangles, each with different colors and sizes, all running diagonally through the screen. Really, there's not much else to say. Mania manages to pull off an original design without alienating audiences. It's really great. Unfortunately, the next game came out only a couple months after. Sonic Force's design definitely matches the game. Boring and unoriginal. This one is obviously inspired by Sonic 2, except it took away everything that made the design so special. It just looks so bland. There's no triangle pattern anymore, it's literally just slabs of color with no depth at all. The only text you'll see is the stage number, the stage name, and your best time in the bottom right. At least Lost World has some unique text to make it stand out. And now, we've reached the pinnacle of boring loading screens. This is literally just a tutorial with some loading text in the bottom right. You literally wouldn't even be able to tell that this was from a Sonic game if you weren't into the series. You could slap this anywhere else and it would fit. At least Forces was somewhat recognizable. You could maybe look at it and say, this looks like another Sonic loading screen, but here, there is nothing related to Sonic, or really the entirety of Frontiers, besides the words homing attack in the tutorial pop up. And this is the only loading screen across the entire game, by the way. I wouldn't be nitpicking if there were others to choose from. This means that there's nothing else to look at where you're loading besides some boring text that doesn't resemble Sonic in the slightest. Definitely the worst loading screen in the series. Thankfully these things got better after Frontiers, and nothing shows that better than Sonic Superstars. Even while you're actually loading, the game presents an orange screen with various shapes and patterns in yellow rushing through, again like the 90s box art. Then the actual stage loads, and when you're dropped into it, the screen acts similar to Sonic CD, with a design that only protrudes half of your screen. Here, in a unique font, the stage name and act number blast out proudly before the text is the only thing left on the screen. It finally ends with the text pulling away and it's so good! This all happens in 5 seconds too. This is my favorite Sonic loading screen of all time. I highly doubt anything will ever top this one. Although Shadow Gens doesn't top the design of Superstars, I'd say it still does a good job of mixing a clean design with information. In the center is the stage name and act number, which combines with a more 90s box art shapes and a burning star to the left to make a clean design. To the right of that is your best time, with a little image of Shadow skating highlighted on the left. Finally, towards the middle left is the challenge objective, which takes up the most space on the screen. The whole thing comes together to form a loading screen that I personally consider to be better than the original generations, which is about the only thing that Shadow Gens will ever be better at. Yet again, the moral of this video is that you should go Glaze Gens. Well, I just spent 16 minutes talking to myself about loading screens. Man, I feel stupid. It's insane that I can ramble on about small things like this, but not other things like combat. That video is coming soon, I promise. Anyways, hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, be sure to subscribe, maybe hype this video to push it out to more people who might like this, and I'll see you all next time.